Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, joined by Noah Rothman, senior writer for the National Review. Noah, the Republicans got thumped last night, and both of our states, you in New Jersey, me in Virginia, are worse for it, but we're not as bad as New York City. The response from President Trump today was to demand of the Republican Senate that they end the filibuster. I'm opposed to that, strong advocate of the filibuster. First of all, your reaction to last night, then we'll go to the filibuster.
Well, reacting to last night, I would say that I share your assessment. What we saw was something like a mini wave, uniform shifts, not at the local level. At the local level, they were pretty pronounced, but generally a uniform shift across the board. Democrats swept. Democrats swept in places like Mississippi and Georgia and Pennsylvania, to say nothing of Virginia and New Jersey. And all of it does point in the direction of a general dissatisfaction with Washington. The exit polling indicated that a lot of these voters turned out, even those who disapprove, for example, of Democrats in office in my state, disapprovers of Phil Murphy, for example, Mikey Sherrill, the Democratic gubernatorial elect, she won those supporters, about 20% of those supporters, and that was enough. There's also been some talk about educational gaps, like the educational gap was really important in New York City, for example. But I'd be cautious about building that out. Yes, there was a significant educational gap in Virginia and New Jersey that favored the Democratic nominee. But I'm looking more at the gender gap. In New Jersey, for example, Jack Ciattarelli managed to win about 8% of men, but he lost women by 20 points. Now, there wasn't any exit polling in New Jersey in 2024, but in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump flipped that dynamic. He won about men by about 17 points, while he only lost women by about 10-9. And that was just so significant, and women made up such a large portion of the electorate that you couldn't get over that hump. So there's an educational problem here, but there's also a gender dynamic that is currently benefiting women in much the same way the gender gap benefited men in 2024 and Donald Trump.
So now the president is justifiably worried about losing the House. If you lose the House, you have to deal with the Democrats or nothing gets done. And in fact, the Democrats would have leverage beyond this idiotic shutdown. And so I want to play for you two clips to get your reaction to them. Cut number 8, please.
If I thought that they weren't going to pass the filibuster, I wouldn't even bring it up. They're going to pass it within the first hour. If they take power, and it's more likely that they take power if we don't do it, because we're not going to be passing any legislation. They're not going to approve anything. We're going to go 3.25 years. There won't be one bill that we're going to pass, because the easiest thing to pass is exactly right now what they won't pass. And they'll do that, and they'll wreak havoc. But let's assume they get in. They're doing it anyway, so it wouldn't matter. They're doing it anyway. And, you know, I have a case where I have great U.S. attorneys that can't be approved because of the blue slips. The blue slips, I think you should terminate blue slips, too. It's a mental termination because it's...
Okay, now that I agree with. I agree. Blue slips drive me crazy. Senators hold on to them because it's a powerful thing to hold on to, but it has absolutely got no constitutional basis. The filibuster can be defended as sort of a manifestation of the anti-majoritarian nature of the Constitution. But what do you say in response to the president's argument? We'll get nothing done for 3.5 years.
I don't think that's true, because it's not true. It hasn't been true in his term, in his second term. He's managed to get major pieces of legislation through, albeit through reconciliation. But that's part of the feature of the Senate. I'm strongly opposed to making the Senate into a smaller version of the House, a majoritarian institution in which the majority rules. Minority privileges are very important, and Republicans have been stalwart in their defense, much to their credit. Listen, this is not new. The president was lobbying for filibuster reform in his first term. Democrats have been playing with this since the Obama years. Everybody's been talking about getting rid of the legislative filibuster for a long time, but nobody acts on it. The Congress control of the Senate has changed hands several times over the course of this decade, and neither party in the majority has taken an axe to the legislative filibuster. And I think that's prudent, in part because they all remember when they were in the minority and how jealously they guarded their minority privileges, the filibuster being the foremost among them. So it's just a prudent assessment
let me
of the fact
pause,
that you'll never be in power
me,
forever.
Let me posit to you that he's right. Let's assume that he's right, and that the Democrats will not have a Kristen Sinema and a Joe Manchin to stop them when they get to 51, the next time that they have a triple play, the president, the House, and the Senate. Let's assume President Trump is right and they're going to break it anyway. What's the best argument for Republicans not breaking it?
Well, I think it'd be very bad for the civic compact. I think it'd be bad for the civic health of this country. It would one of the things that is very static in our system is law. The president has the capacity to wave the pen and the phone around and shift policy via executive order, but he's circumscribed in his power by the Constitution and the courts. If we turn both chambers of the legislature into majority bodies, then we'll see the law shift as frequently as we do executive fiat, executive orders. And that will be.
But no, that's sidestepping it. That's sidestepping the problem, which I'm trying to argue.
You just want to talk raw
here.
Politics, right? Raw power politics.
Yeah.
Well, you're just handing your enemies a weapon that they'll use against you. Anytime you fashion a new weapon in the culture or the politics wars, you better be ready to have it used against you. And if we look at the results last night, it's going to be
avoiding the
used
premise
sooner than you think.
No, I agree with that, but the premise that he's operating on is they're going to do it. So do it first, and let's get some stuff done. Let's assume that's true.
I just think it's wrong.
Why don't
Thank you. I'm not avoiding the premise. I'm answering you directly. That's wrong. It was wrong in 2016. It was wrong over the course of Trump term one. It was wrong over the Biden years, and so far it's wrong now. So
you're looking backwards.
They're going to do it
Noah.
eventually.
You are avoiding the hard question. If I was on the court today and you were arguing, I'd say, Counselor, I have a direct question. If the Democrats are going to do it, why shouldn't we do it first? And you're answering the Democrats aren't going to do it. And I'm saying, assume that the Democrats are going to do it. Why shouldn't we do it first? That is what needs to be answered.
Well, if you assume, I just find the premise, I don't agree with it, Hugh. The notion here
I know,
is
but,
that we should
I'm
launch
trying to persuade.
a first strike based on the assumption that they're going to launch a first strike first. That's how you talk yourself into a conflagration that you can't stop, and I just reject the premise.
I'm going to ask you to stick around because I want you to really try and wrestle with the question on the table. We're trying to persuade the president he's wrong. And I think the answer is it's bad to do this. And even if they're going to do it, we don't want to be the one that did it. It's the Harry Reid example. What Mitch McConnell has in his bag is a speech on the.
Are we going to commercial right now?
No, we're going to go to a commercial break.
We got an answer. We got an answer for you. Texas. Okay, sure. We'll come back to it.
We're going to come back. Noah's not going anywhere, and he's going to assume the president's right and argue why, even if he's right, even if the Democrats do it in 3 years, we shouldn't do it now because that's the key argument. Stay tuned, America. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Noah C. Rothman, you have 2 minutes on the floor. What's your best answer to my hypothetical? The Democrats will do it.
Well, listen, I stand by my original proposition, which is that you don't want to talk yourself into the notion that your adversaries are going to strike you first. Therefore, you have to act first. That's how deterrence breaks down. But let's just talk about, the reciprocal effects, radicalizing effects that this sort of talk has. Has Texas, for example, engaged in mid-decade redistricting yet? Have we gerrymandered the state yet? No. A lot of Republican states are backing away from that now. In fact, there was this brief craze, and now they're saying we don't want to do it. It's complicated. It's legally fraught. And certainly it's having reciprocal effect on our opponents. And what has that reciprocal effect been? California, which now passed this proposition last night to redistrict its districts ahead of the midterms. Cook Political Report now says that we might be looking at 11 competitive new states, possibly 11 new Democratic states. Republicans haven't gotten anything out of this push to redistrict mid-districting in order to stave off an electoral disaster in 2026. But they've already lost something just by virtue of the talk alone. If you're not committed to that sort of course and you're not committed to all-out political warfare in perpetuity to the detriment of the civic compact and American comedy generally, it's not worth it. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have to go all the way because your adversaries will take you there. Your adversaries will act first because they will be reciprocally radicalized by your own proposition.
Noah, you didn't answer.
Okay, Hugh. I don't know what to tell you. I tried.
Well, the lawyer in me, if you were my law student, you're not. You're a very fine writer and a public intellectual. But if you're my law student, I say, come on, the hypothetical is the hypothetical.
What's the answer, Hugh? What is your answer?
My answer is it's bad. It is anti-majoritarianism at its best.
That's
the
what
filibuster protects the minority, and therefore we ought to make a moral argument against doing away with the filibuster to the president, that it's bad for the country to do away with the filibuster. And
all
on
right,
his
I
own
want
terms,
somebody to go back over the tape. I think we agree on that.
Okay. I think you talk. Hey, by the way, I want every single Republican state to redistrict to the max because that's part of the constitutional order. But we'll do that next week. Have fun at the party you're going to, Noah C. Rothman, because you look sharp.